The last video we did was, you know, you bought a bike, the bike started falling apart, the bike started having issues, things come loose, things are making weird noise, and we kind of briefly went through it. So we got a lot of people that are chiming in and requesting certain things. So I want to thank you guys for that. We're going to quickly go through all that, but we're not going to go super in depth in it. If you guys want to go in super in depth in it, then I suggest you subscribe, because the more subscription we get, the more money they make, the more videos they can make. So go and subscribe and request more. But for now, we're going to run through a couple of questionnaires and we're going to help you fix it.
Bike Life _ critter. Can you guys talk about big BMX bikes like 24, 26, and 29?
Okay, so could we talk about big bikes? Like, the big bikes is really not that much different from the little bike like this one. It just got bigger wheels, bigger frame, just everything's just bigger. There's really not that much different. Everything else is exactly the same, just bigger. It's just like you, it's just like me. I'm a short guy, and you got Dylan, which is a tall guy. We're the same thing. We got limbs, we got legs. There's none that much different. So if you think they're different, they're not.
Malik Pie, can you explain what I need to look for when the chain keeps coming loose? I don't have a shop around me that is specific to BMX. They're all road bike shops.
So chain coming loose is an annoying thing, and there could be a bunch of stuff. Is one, you need to start working out. Go work out, get that arm in there, because why? You're not wrenching this thing down tight enough. Okay, so tighten it down. If you're not strong enough, use a breaker bar. Use a breaker bar. Maybe put a seat post in there. Turn it. We have a breaker bar right here. You put it on, put this thing on, and pry it down, because this is not enough leverage, or you're just not strong enough. The other problem, believe it or not, is something that is very minor. I'll give you an example. We got a bike right here. This little piece right here, you look at it, there's no knurling on it. It's all smooth. Right here, there's a lot of paint. So what you want to do is you want to get yourself a brand new washer. It's got the knurling on it. When you tighten it down, it will bite into the metal. This one here is a 14, no good. We're going to use this one. Look at the knurling on that. This is the old one. This is the new one. The new one right here has got the knurling. Sometimes when you tighten and open it so much, the knurling right here, you can feel it. It loses its grippiness. So you put this thing on and you tighten it down and just wrench it down, tighten it, and it'll bite into the metal because of the knurling. So every once in a while when you see it slipping, no matter how much you tighten, it keeps slipping. Bet you that's one of the reasons. So just change that. The other thing is somehow you have it loose like this. Guess what? Just go, loosen it up, pull your wheel to one side, grab this, your wheel, and pull it to one side and tighten it up. Hey look, chain's tight now. What you guys don't want to do, and you're probably going to get backhand by me if you do it, is go and put in a hammer, you know, and start prying it like this, or, you know, getting like, you know, a file and start sitting there prying it over. No, all you have to do is, again, I'm going to loosen this up. So you got the wheel that's loose, chain's loose. All you have to do is, see my hand? Hold the frame, push it back. It doesn't have to be straight yet. Chain's a little bit tight. You're going to go and you're going to tighten this up. Chain's a little tight, and then what you're going to do is over here, you're going to look right here, you're going to see if it's center. It's pretty center, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this, I'm going to tighten this up. And then over here, if the chain is loose, and you're like, okay, so what I do? No, don't go like this. Don't go like this and pry it open and do that. No, real simple. Grab yourself the wheel and the palm. Pull your wheel off to one side. And tighten, and look at that. Simple. But the washer, very, very important. Something so little means a lot.
What if you have pegs? Where's this washer supposed to go?
So if you have the pegs, that's actually a very good question. If you have a peg, one of the #1 reasons, because you see the plastic, the reason why you guys grind on plastic pegs is because it slides good. So if it slides good, the plastic right here is going to slide good on that. So that's something where you're just going to have to tighten the piss out of this thing, get it on. Or what you do is, the paint right here is slippery, just go and clean it. Go and clean it, maybe remove some of the paint around here. But what you don't want to do is that whole washer thing that I just said, you do not want to put it in this way.
They'll bend the axle.
Because what you're gonna do is when you put a little gap right there, it'll bend the axle. You want this thing to sit flush. But running pegs, you're gonna have that kind of issue. You usually have to tighten it down. There's almost no way you could do it, or else you're gonna go get a frame with a internal chain tensioner and use that.
What could he sound it down with?
I would just say, you know what, just get like a Scott Wright, just get some light sandpaper. You don't want to get like a 40 grit sandpaper that's got little rock boulders in it and start sanding it down. It's not gonna do it. It's gonna mess up your frame. Just something light, just to scuff it up like a Scott Wright. Real simple.
What about scuffing up your plastic peg? Would that help at all?
No, my personal opinion, and somebody could give me a feedback on that, see if I'm wrong or right. But I rather have it smooth like this and tighten down, because if you have it all chafed up, it actually won't grip as good, because you have a bunch of like, you ever see the end of these things are all fuzzy and stuff like that, like this? That actually won't bite into because it's softer. On metal it's different, it'll bite. On plastic it won't, so actually more slippery. I would just clean this, make sure there's no grease. Clean that, there's no grease, and just tighten it down.
I hope I'm saying the name right. Flight Nil. When I pedal, it's squeaky and it sounds like it's the bottom bracket, but I don't know what to do. What should I do? Actually, that's a really good question. It's a complicated question. It might take me a long time to explain it, but I'm gonna go real briefly. That one's probably gonna take a whole different episode all by itself. When you pedal, it's squeak. You guys gotta think, as we're pedaling, look what's moving. This is moving. This is moving. The bearing's moving. This is moving. This is moving. The spokes, all that could cause a squeak. Anything in between that, all that could squeak. So it's something where it's a lot more complicated. That's actually one of the hardest things to diagnose. Somebody come in, you just have to troubleshoot one at a time. A lot of time, I have to seriously go in and, okay, we got some pedals on the side. We're gonna switch the pedal. Go out there and pedal. Nope, still makes that sound. Some people might go, you know what, you could hear it. No, you can't. Believe me. So we'll go through some of our parts and we'll start changing parts, and then we'll hit that spot right away. Like, oh, it's the chain. Oh, it's this. There was one time where somebody came in and it was squeaking. We couldn't figure it out. It nearly took us a couple hours. Everything we went through the textbook, couldn't figure it out. Guess what it was? The loose spoke. It only squeaks when you're pedaling and you're tilted. The spokes, it's moving. Actually, another story, better. Customer come in and say something's squeaking. It's my bearings. He insists he want to buy a new bearing. We said, you know, hold on. Guess what? It was his seat. When he's sitting and pedaling, and his butt cheeks going back and forth, you know, he's twerking on his seat. These things are squeaking. So the squeaking thing when you're pedaling, it's complicated. That's probably the hardest thing to figure out on a bike. That's going to be something that's going to probably take 1 or 2 episodes to figure out. I don't know if this is the same question that we already answered, but I don't know how to say his name, but I'm just going to put XL. Bro, please, any advice with the chain tension would be great. It's either too loose or too tight. Always does my head in. Too loose, too tight. I think it's kind of like what we already did. Or maybe he's talking about when you pedal. If you look, the chain is tight, and you pedal at a certain spot, it becomes really loose like this. See, this is loose. And then you go like this, look, it's tight. If that's what you're talking about, then it's referring to your sprocket. Sometimes when that happens, it's because your hat washer, the hat washer is this guy. It's this little guy. If you look at the hat washer and the sprocket, it's supposed to sit inside like this. So what happened is that when you installed it, or when your crank came a little loose, the hat washer slipped off, and now the crank is not centered. So when it comes loose, this is what happened. Your sprocket's going like this. So what you have to do is when you install it, you have to be careful. Make sure this goes in. Sometimes you're banging on it, and it fell off, and then when you tighten it, it compressed like that. And look, it's a little off. And so now the sprocket, when you pedal, tight, loose, tight, loose, tight, loose. The other problem that could happen is because
your crank has a slight bend because you went up and you disaster something. But keep in mind, guys, the most common thing is all these bikes that we have here, they will all have a loose and tight spot. Why? It's because these sprockets, these freewheel, they're just made for a bike. It's not made for like a space shuttle or something. So there's going to be some slight imperfection in it. So the slight imperfection is going to make that tight and loose, tight and loose. Now some of you guys might go, you know what? No, that's BS. He's wrong. You know, I have a bike that doesn't do that. Well, you're gonna show me your like $10,000 road bike. It has a chain derailleur on there. That chain derailleur hides that tight and loose spot. So that tight and loose spot sometimes is actually normal because the imperfection in it. But most likely it's because a hat washer comes off. If anybody else got another theory, let me know. You're always learning something.
So you just need a new hat washer?
You need a new hat washer, or else just make sure the hat washer is on. Sometimes the hat washer, sometimes it gets so worn in because people run tight chain and they don't have their crank real tight, so it's not snug. It becomes oval. That little hole right here becomes oval, so then it'll become even worse. Tight, loose, tight, loose.
So then you might need a new sprocket too.
You might need a new sprocket, might need a new hat washer, or just snug it down. So if you can see, this hat washer right here is all worn down and beat up. This is a new one. But then also look at the sprocket. If you look closer right here, this hole is all oblong out. It's not even round because the hat washer fell off and the rider keep pedaling. So those are the stuff that could cause it to be loose.
Mike Hagan, setting up a straight chain line is something nobody ever talks about. I ended up machining parts to get my sprockets perfectly aligned.
I mean, it's a BMX bike. I mean, almost anything is not gonna be straight, but we can't do that. If you want to set up a straight chain line, that's actually pretty easy. You simply just go back and you look as you stretch the chain out, you can see if the chain is linear. And let's say if it's a little off, if you see it veered off a little bit, then you have too much spacers behind the sprocket. So all you do is you come in and there's different spacers. There's different spacer for different thickness. And you go and you just tailor it out and you make it where the chain alignment fit. Sometimes you might even have to put it right here inside the dropout to get that chain alignment straight. But again, if you think about what you're doing on the bike, if it's a race bike, then yes. But I think we're talking more about freestyle bikes, and if you're buying sprocket that has a bash guard on it, what are you doing? You're bashing it, you're grinding. You're doing something like that, chain alignment is gonna be the least of your worry, but if it is, then it's a simple fix. It's just adding or subtracting spacers in the back of your sprocket.
Eric Vlogs, handlebars that move.
Handlebars that move. I think I came across that, and there's some people chimed in and kind of give their opinion. Handlebars that move. I got two handlebar here, perfect example for you. This one right here, the handlebar, you can see is a slightly older one. Look at the paint on it. Look at it, it's kind of crushed. You guys got to keep in mind, when a handlebar moves, this could be one of the problems. You didn't tighten it down tight enough because you weren't strong enough, or you could actually over tighten it and crush the bar like what happened with this. If you look at it, you can see the little bulge in the middle because they over tightened it. So over tighten can actually make the handlebar move. But guys, if the handlebar move, don't go there and try to pull it back, because the more you move the bar and pull it back, all these little knurling right here that actually bites it, it's sanding the stem down. It's opening up the stem more and more. So when it moves, don't bend it back. Loosen the stem, move it back, tighten it back down. Now I noticed one of the other viewers said sand it down. No, you do not want to sand it down. That's a no-no. If you feel this right here, you feel the grip. Now there is paint on this, but if you go and you sand that down, you're gonna sand down all the sharp edges and all the peaks on here that's actually gonna bite into the aluminum stem and keep it there. You do not want to sand all that down.
About sanding the stem.
No, you don't want to sand down the stem either. You do not want to sand it down. If you do this, the stem, when you buy, there will be an instruction tell you to pre-sand it as you tighten it. Nobody will tell you that. don't do that. The actually smooth surface they have on the stem, that's actually good, but as soon as you sand it, you're gonna make everything all soft, the aluminum all soft. You can't see with the naked eye, but if you look at it in the microscope, you're gonna see all the sand mark is all curled up. Like, I don't have an example to show you guys, but you don't want to do that. You want to leave everything smooth and flat so it bites down. If there's paint on it like this, then what you want to do is you want to chip it off. You want to scrape it off. You don't want to sand this. You do not want to do that, guys. Don't sand it. So whoever says sand it, it's not that you're wrong, but it might have worked for you because you were lucky, but don't sand it. Just sit there and scrape it. Scrape it off. Go get some paint stripper. Put a little bit of paint stripper on there and strip the paint off. But don't sand. But keep in mind, guys, keep in mind, I know some of you guys are going to forget, when it moves, don't move it back. Unbolt it. Move it back to where you want it, and then bolt it back down.
By sanding it, will it make the bars less strong and the stem less strong?
It won't make it less strong, but like I said, you viewers can't feel it, but the next time you go into a bike shop, ask to see the handlebar. Feel the knurling. If you want to know a handlebar is good, feel the knurling. This is an S&M bar. These guys, in my opinion, make one of the hardiest bar, the strongest bar. You feel the knurling. This is strong. It feels almost like a file. So when you go and you clamp something onto this, all those knurling are sinking into the aluminum and biting into it and holding it. You're sanding it down. You're rounding it all out. You don't want to do that.
Means I don't know how to say the name, but do a how to maintain a cassette hub.
How to maintain a cassette hub? There's actually not that much to maintain a cassette hub, because cassette nowadays are built so good with the steel bearings. The only thing I can think about that you maintain it is to keep it clean. To maintain a cassette, it's really not that hard. I mean, cassette nowadays are made so good. There's no, if you look at right here, there's a profile cassette. I mean, everything's all closed up. The best maintenance for anything like this is to keep it clean. I've noticed some of you guys have caked dirt, grime. All that dirt and grime eventually will make into these little cracks right here, and inside of it looks like this. Looks like this. This is a profile driver missing the paws. All the dirt and the grime get into the paws, and like this, it gets into all these moving parts and it clogs it. And when it clogs it, it's gonna become rough. And all the dirt and grime is eventually gonna make it more worn down. So the best thing to do is just to keep it clean. There's really nothing else, because behind this driver is steel bearings. So there's really not that much. So just keep it clean. That's the best advice I have to maintain a cassette. Make everything tight. Make sure the bolts are all tight. Because something like this, if you look at the profile one, if this is slightly loose and this thing come loose, look, the driver slides out. You see that? If it's just a little loose and it slides out, the paws and springs inside is gonna fall out, or you can get some rock, some dirt, some grime, and then you're gonna start hearing crunching. The crunching is just parts wearing down. Make sure everything's snug. This thing should be like flush. Every cassette has this thing flush. Keep it snug, tight, keep it clean. You know what? Cleaning does not mean you take WD-40 and drench it down. Cleaning, when I clean a bike, all I do, I take a rag, I go in, and I just wipe it down. Just wipe it down. Look at that. Look how dirty it is. And watch, I'm gonna wipe this thing down. And you just wipe all that down, all that dirt out. That's it. It's not rocket science, guys. It is a BMX bike. This is not a road bike that, you know, you're gonna go out and cheat Tour de France with, okay?